Hello, hello. All right, so here's your past life reading. Here's the spread. What we're going to do is look at where you were and what you did with the majority of your time, an important day, with the relationships, feelings involved, another important day, relationships, feelings, and over here is the death and lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout, all right? So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are coming through, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off of what comes through here and your current life, and I'll try to help however I can. Just keep in mind there's a couple of ways to make connections. You can make direct connections, which when you directly connect with the information coming through, or opposite connections where, sometimes our souls want to experience opposite things that we've experienced in other lives. So for example, we see people who die from smoking and they come back and they are allergic or sensitive to smoke. It bothers them. They can't be around the scent or the, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So just keep that in mind as we go along. So let's see, just remember that you have to connect and resonate yourself with what comes through, and what you don't connect with, don't force it or anything, just tuck it in the back of your mind for a later time, because a lot of times it comes up like weeks, months, year later kind of things click. So let's start. All right, so first I want to mention that what's coming through right away is a female aspect, because genders don't matter, you can be anything, but this is not just any female. The thing about this feminine energy is it feels, what it feels like is warm, round, and large, and grounded, and maternal. There's something that is unmovable, not in the way of being stubborn, but unmovable as in like a force not to be reckoned with, but also stability. Just like that's what's coming through right away. So we're going to get into this and see what's going on. So where we're going. So this is the Africa card. And that encompasses a lot. We get, North Africa, there's Egypt, and there's the Morocco, all that area up there, and then we get into Central and South is South Africa. This feels like we are being pulled to the central part, but it feels like it is. So if you look at the map of Africa and you go and you divide it into threes and the center area, it feels like if you go directly in the center and you go, what's the east? East. You go right. Like if you look at a map and you're looking and you go right, so it's almost like east, central, east kind of thing. So go and look at a map and see what country that might be, because what you want to do is even see if you connect with this area. So either one, you might already know if you've ever been pulled towards Africa to visit, or if you hear music, if you know about the culture, if you love the food, the people, the aesthetic, the land, that kind of thing. And if you specifically go to this place, like the central and east, and you pull up photos of the actual like terrain, like the landscape, see how you feel about it. That's the kind of thing you want to look for as far as feeling a connection with this place. And if you've never been pulled, that's totally fine. That's why you want to look at photos and see how it makes you feel, kind of thing. All right, so we're looking at, let's see. Okay, so this is what we would, I guess, call tribal. However, it feels like this is not what I would call primitive, but it's what we would call tribal, so indigenous, so that kind of thing. So if it looks like we're looking at a community that has rituals to it, and that has ancestors and like a tradition, very cohesive community. I'm trying to get visuals. It feels like there's something about elders in this community that are held at high regard. Like, almost like, not like they're magic, but there's, and look this up if you can find this kind of thing, because I feel like this would be like, I feel like this tribe is not like gone, or like these people are now, I feel like, are in a built-up community kind of thing. But traditionally, it feels like it feels like their belief system has to do, there's something in it having to do that with the elder people. They're treated so fondly or looked upon in such a way because they see elderly people as closer to reuniting with God or with the creator source, whatever it is that they believe in. So it's interesting because I've never had this come through, but there's something about the status of the elders in this community. So right away, how you might connect is how do you connect with elders? The whole thing about like the injustice of how elders are treated kind of thing, you know, like we see a lot of elders that are mistreated in homes or whatever you might call it. But not just that, it's also your personal feeling about your elders, how you hold them in regard, or even your ancestors. I want to say, like, what role do they play in your life? Now, here's the thing. If it's not even a thing for you, and you're like, well, I like old people, they're fine, whatever. If that's not a thing for you, or anything in your traditions, or however you were raised, or anything like that, when it comes to the elders, then this would be a message for you to specifically look into ancestral healing. Because if you are, let's say you're going through a transformation of some kind, and let's say you want some direction in some way as far as maybe self-development or spiritual development, I would say that you might like the idea of dabbling in ancestral magic, where you can connect with your ancestors, you can call upon them, and you can also use their energy to heal, not just in this life, but the lineage of ancestors. And I just feel like this is coming up because maybe just look into it and see if you connect with that at all, and see if that connects with anything in your life going on where you might be looking for answers or something. Because when you heal your lineage. And a lot of people are coming into this timeline, this time in history right now, especially females, to heal their ancestral lineage, because healing the ancestral lineage heals your present tense. And we've seen it actually heal family rifts, or if families are disbanded or fighting or whatever it might be. We've seen people who do ancestral healing, and the domino effect affects the present time, present life family in positive ways. So that, you know, just check in with that, see how you connect with that. And this would also help if you are having family issues, you know, whether it's you and someone, or whether it's like, you're, a cousin and grandma aren't getting along, or, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. Let's see. All right. So just keep making connections with this. This would also speak, by the way, one more connection would be how you feel about community. Did you choose to be born into a family in this life where it's very community based, it's rooted down, like you grew up in one family home, or at least like in the same area where you knew everyone, like that kind of thing? That would be a direct connection. The opposite connection would be if you chose to come into a family in this life where it was just constantly moving, or a lot of movement kind of thing, where there wasn't a lot of stability, where you never got to know your neighbors. If you had friends growing up, it was just like 1 year here, 1 year there kind of thing, because here it feels like everybody knows everyone, and everyone knows everyone for the lifetime kind of thing. It's just a community that works together. This can also mean that if you don't have a community, that you might be yearning for a community, and that knowing that you have been in a community like this before, you know how to find that again. You have what it takes to find that again. You just have to tap into the energy of it. Okay? So keep making connections. We're going to go to what you do with the majority of your time. So this is the healer card. And when I look at the healer card, when we talk about the healer card, this thing that I was mentioning before we even started, about the maternal energy that was like large and round and stable and grounded, and there's something about it that reminds me of like the planet Earth. So when you think of like Mother Gaia, right? Or like Mother Earth, and I say Gaia because it, like, for me, it projects a kind of image that is very like warm and loving and everlasting and like reliable, you know what I mean? Like very like like how you think a mother should be kind of thing, right? Not how all mothers are, but you know, that maternal energy. But that's what this feels like here. Is it looks like the aspect that we're looking at here is that, like, is providing the energy. And I feel like it's the kind of energy where as a very young person in this community, they pay attention to the energy you put out, and they are able to see your strengths. And I feel like they kind of, what's it called? Foster and nurture the children's strengths in order to like eventually get placed in a role in the community that's going to be the most beneficial for themselves, but also everyone. And so just saying that, I want to say you might connect with the idea of currently how the school system is. If you find great injustice in that, like you don't like how the schools are run because they don't cater to each child's strength, it's all unified. So that's the example coming through, but this can be with anything in society or in your life that you find that people are treated in a unified manner where you feel they should be treated based on their individual strengths and or weaknesses even, so that they're, you know, they're able to navigate better towards a role in life that they would be happy at and be able to focus on their strengths rather than have to learn a bunch of things that they won't use or don't like, you know, or it doesn't matter, it doesn't serve them. So this is a community where they nurture the strengths of each person in a way that it will serve them throughout their life, but also serve the community. It's very well done, we could say. So it feels like this aspect of you, even as a young girl, had a very grounded, stable, maternal energy. And it feels like they knew what that felt like, because it feels like it wasn't the first time they've come across that in someone in their community, because it's almost like they have a lot of roles having to do with, it feels like they're accepting of healing, and it feels like they are all, almost like they all tie in to the idea that the ancestors work with them. I feel like this community is, I feel like, you know what, they might work with hoodoo. I think that's what it's called, hoodoo, I'm pretty sure. Go ahead and look up hoodoo and look into it and see how you vibe with it, because it feels like we're looking at that. People who work with magic and energy, and it feels like, you know, and it feels like it's very like grounded work. Like it's not, there's nothing evil about this. Like this is very like grounded earthly thing, like earthly work, but also working with ancestors. So Google and see what you can see about that. See how you connect with that. But we are looking at a healer, and it feels like this, that your energy is, again, nurtured. Like your energy is specifically nurtured. Let's see what else. So what this would mean in your current life is that, and again, you have to connect and resonate with this, and if you don't, just tuck in the back of your mind, no problem. But if you connect with this, this would mean that this energy is still running through you. It's still part of you. It's part of your soul. You've picked it up. It's here, you know? So this means that you can tap back into this energy. And this also means that you have an energy that affects other people simply by being around them. If you notice in your life that your energy grounds people, makes people feel better or safer or clear-minded or level-headed, almost like you can help people find solutions or answers very easily, even by just showing up, people get a solution, that kind of thing. That's the kind of energy we're looking at here. Now, the opposite would be if you walk in and chaos ensues. If you notice that you bring drama or people's what's it called? People's emotions escalate or go a little wonky when you come in, that would just be the opposite connection of your soul trying out a new kind of energy. So if that's the case, you can always come back to this if you're done with that. If that makes sense, if you're aware of it, right? But otherwise, the direct connection would be if you have the energy that helps find solutions, answers, and grounds people. And I want to say, if you connect with that, to actually like lean into it and don't think it's a fluke and don't think it's just a coincidence. If you notice that, like if you notice people find solutions and answers when you're around them, or you come up with good ideas and you help people in that way, don't just be like, oh yeah. Like don't blow it off. Like that's an actual energetic healing gift. And it might feel so natural that you'll just be like, oh, whatever. But it's actually very valuable. So keep that in mind. Keep making connections where you can with the healer card. And we're going to go to the first important day, okay? So this first day is the war card. And it can be a war between people. And it can also be like a war within the self. So I'm seeing what's going on here, because we are also getting this aspect that's part of a community in the way that everybody is like a limb of a being. By that I mean it's like the best thing I can come up with is like a spider has 8 legs. It's like every person in the community is a leg, You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like everybody works around everybody, so it's like a well-oiled machine. So that could be coming up to explain any connection you might have with the idea of independence. So if you feel like you want independence, you've always wanted independence, you always felt like you were part of something and couldn't like step out of your role, so to speak, and go after your own thing. Maybe it's like, oh, you were expected to be in the family business, or always expected to check in with your parents even though you're an adult, like that kind of thing, where you're not really given much freedom just based on the circumstances of how your life unfolded. That would be a connection here. So if you are seeking independence in this life, or I mean, it could be that you are very independent and you have obtained independence, that could be a connection as well. But if you are still wanting independence, it's because your soul has experienced this very like a cohesive community where it's like, yeah, you can have your own thoughts and your own roles in it, but it's just everyone worked around everyone kind of just knew everyone's business kind of thing. So you can come back into this life where it's the same thing. You're in a community, everyone knows everyone, you know, that kind of thing, and you might be really happy like that, you know, with that, or you would want independence, or you have gone after independence in this life, because this is not an independent living here. So you might like to travel and get away and take a breather, or cut your phone off, or you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. Like maybe you don't like talking on the phone, you know what I mean, like that kind of thing, where you just need like space basically. Now the thing is, if you are not that way and you're busy and you're very sociable and you're intertwined with, you know, the lives of your people, so to speak, then this would just be a message for you to make sure that you do take some time for you, just to recharge. Even if you don't feel like you need it, take some time and space just so you can collect yourself to yourself and then come back and see how that makes you feel. Okay? That's what's coming through, if anything. All right, so the first important day, we have the War card, and then the relationship with the War card is the Friends card. There's the Friends card. Okay, and these are people in the community, I feel. And then the Emotions card, the Feeling card, this is positive, negative, so it's a duality card. It can mean one or the other or both. Kind of like it's good and bad, or it's just good, it's just bad. So I'm just seeing what's going on here. All right, we have the War card, so show me what's going on. What's going on? Okay, so it feels like there's something like another community. And I say community, but it's like, that's the best word for it. So we'll say another large group, we'll say. It feels like these people are travelers in the sense of what we would call nomadic, like people that don't stay in one place and they move around together a lot. And it feels like they come across your community and neither one of the groups, your community and the group, they don't know exactly how to interact right away, because it feels like this is not a normal occurrence. It feels like this group usually keeps to themselves and you don't really deal with outsiders. And it feels like the reason why there's even a coming together is because it's almost like they stumbled upon you by accident, maybe at night, or maybe, you know, like they didn't see that they were about to just step into a village kind of thing. So it feels like there is this, like right away, kind of like a, like I want to actually suck in my breath kind of thing, like a little bit of a tension. It's like a freeze moment, you know, like freeze, like, and they're eyeing each other, that kind of thing. And nobody makes a move towards any kind of weapon or anything like that. So it feels like the War card, it feels like people dealing quickly in their minds with what to do in this instance and whether or not they're going to have to worry or defend themselves from outsiders, because they don't, you know what I mean? Like this just seems like kind of like a weird, like momentary standoff, and it's like a silence in the air, and it's like, what the hell do we do? That's what this is. And then it turns out like they're like, what happens, it feels like whoever is considered a leader amongst you kind of thing. Not that he's better or worse, just someone who's like more like a leader kind of thing. I feel like he comes and he's like, come join us. We're about to have our like midday whatever. Come sit with us and let's talk. Like, it's like that kind of thing. So there's a coming together, and this group feels like it's a much smaller group than your community, because your community has like flourished over time, and you know, it's like a legit community. And when I say village, it's like, yeah, it's like a village. And I feel like this place would be here today, like, just it would be more modern, right? It would be built up or something like that. But it feels like the smaller group comes in, and and they're showing me like you guys are sharing a meal with them, and it's food they've never tasted before, because the food that they have has to be the kind of food that has to be cooked very within a certain amount of time before they keep moving. Whereas your community is able to kind of like, it feels like your people were able to like play with recipes and like learn and mold like cuisine over the course of like centuries, you know, like recipes handed down from your ancestors, like that kind of thing. So I want to say there might be a connection you might make with the idea of food being a bonding experience between people, like that it's invaluable, like it's precious, like food time, meal time. What do you think about meal time? You know, family time, like that kind of thing, like coming together to eat. Do you think there is something sacred about coming together to eat? Have you ever thought about that? And if not, I mean, if so, great, there's a connection. If not, then this would be a message for you to just consider the idea of food being a peace offering in whatever way that might mean to you in your current life, in whatever way that might be helpful. Just in case anything's going on where you might want a peace offering, it feels like it's almost like the ancestors here are also connected energetically to this reading, because technically they're still your ancestors now. It's all soul stuff, you know, soul energy level. Just because you're you here and you never knew these ancestors doesn't mean your soul isn't connected still, because this aspect of you is you too. So it's almost like, I want to say I'm getting, like, it's like a nudge from your ancestors on a soul level. Like, hey, feed them. Like that. Like if there was a message from the ancestors, be like, hey, try some food. Try feeding them something yummy. If that makes sense. So make sense of that however you can, if you can make a connection with that. But that's what I feel is coming through. Now the positive negative card, though, is relating to that first standoff, and also kind of watching to see how they are and who they are, because they're so different from you and yet the same, right? So the friends card indicates a peaceful coming together, though. And I'm just trying to see if there's an integration of these people, because I can see, or I can feel that these people end up staying at least for a good chunk of time. But I'm not sure if it's permanent or not. But they definitely become friends. They definitely partake in the activities. So this could be coming up because in your current life, you might be witnessing, either now or have or will, a coming together of people who are not from the same place. By that, what's coming to my mind is the idea of like how when you, like, would two people meet and fall in love and they both come, or one of them comes with like kids, you know, basically like fusing families in like a second marriage or something like that, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. That's the feel of this. It's like, how do we integrate these new people into our lives and still go on with our lives and be happy and everyone's happy and like that kind of thing. So however you might be able to connect with that, and again, if you can't, that's fine, tuck it in the back of your mind for a later time, because this will be useful, if not now, then at a later time, because I feel like for some reason there's something very like heartwarming and something stabilizing about food, about the food, like a homey, yummy food, bringing everyone together, communal eating kind of thing. Yes, okay, so keep making connections where you can with this. I'm trying to see your role in this. Let me just see your role in this. Okay, alright, so you are helping prepare the food. I'm trying to see if it's a specific food, because that'd be very interesting. Okay, so what they're showing me is what looks like, okay, so it's like it's like, can you see that? Okay, it's like this. So it's kind of like round, it's kind of like a oblong shape, and it looks like cornbread, you know? So it's like, it looks like cornbread, but it's not cornbread. If anything, it's almost like it's like a yellow cornbready looking kind of roll, and it's stuffed with something, there's something stuffed in it. I don't know if that, I mean, usually those little details don't come through so vividly, but that is definitely coming through. So you might, I don't know if you like, I don't think it's cornbread, it just looks like cornbread, but it's kind of like, yeah, so, what do you call the thing where, okay, it's kind of like, yeah, I think they're called like tamales, where, you know, it's rolled in the, isn't it like rolled, I think it's rolled in like a corn husk, which the corn thing, it keeps coming up, but it's like in these, you'd be able to eat the husk. Like, that's actually edible. It's not like you have to take it off. That's what it looks like. And then it's like that big too. And it's like that same shape as a tamale. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I think it's that. Yeah, because, yeah. Anyway, so keep making connections where you can. And we'll go to the next important day. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, sorry. Okay. Another connection you might be able to make with this is the idea of new people in your life and how welcoming you are when it comes to making new friends or welcoming people into your life. So this would indicate so a direct connection would be like, let me feel you out for a second. Okay, let's try you out, and if you F up, then bye. So it's almost like the direct connection would be if you give people a chance, and then if they screw it up, then goodbye. The opposite connection would be if it takes a while for you to warm up to people and they kind of have to work their way into your life. And as they work their way into your life, you're seeing that you can trust them slowly. See? So that would be the opposite connection. All right. So keep making connections. We're going to the next important day here. So this is the Wowzer card. And this usually indicates like an aha moment, or you're seeing something like out of the ordinary. Then this is the soulmate card. Oh yeah, this is cool. Okay, and then this is the neutral card. So this is where you have your day in the community. This is your day because you're doing something new that they've never done before. And what this feels like is, which is answering our question, they ended up staying. So the group ends up staying and integrating into the community, and it feels like you come into union with one of them, and you're the first one to get married to someone who's not of the community, if that makes sense. And I say that not that everyone is interbreeding in the same community. I'm saying that in that your community actually does know it has like a sister community, or at least one or two sister communities that I feel like today, if you were to find this place, all of them would have come together and formed the one city kind of thing. But here it feels like there are like 2 or 3 of your people from the same ancestors kind of thing, except the communities are separated. And then it feels like people will marry interchanging marriage throughout the communities, so it's not intermarriage or interrelational marriage kind of thing. That's what I feel. But you're the first one to marry outside of your community and the sister community, we could say. And that's a big deal, but it's also not like looked down upon. It's just that we're looking at what, I guess it's like, you know, it's not like an interracial marriage, but it's 2 different heritages, almost, yeah, it's like 2 different heritages or histories of peoples coming together, but it doesn't feel like it's 2 different ethnicities, but yet it's also 2 very different, like, identities based on the backstory of their ancestors who are different, if that makes sense. So connect with that however you can when because you might connect with this with the theme of interracial marriage, because it's easier to say it. I guess it's easier to like that concept is easy to understand versus like these little fine details of this kind of like interheritage kind of thing. But how you feel about interracial marriage, this would indicate a direct connection, would indicate that that would be something that you are like what's it called, like proactive for, you know what I mean, like rooting for, like of course, if they're in love, love is love, and that's all that matters. Like that kind of thing, right? So the opposite, you know what the opposite would be, but that would indicate this, but also the idea, I mean, it would be actually very interesting to know if you are, if that is your relationship right now, because you were the first one of the tribe here to do it. So that'd be kind of cool if it was like a tradition you're carrying on, right? So there's that, because here's the thing about this, it brings peace amongst people who are different. So that's the theme we're looking at, is a peacemaker amongst different people, like finding the commonality, bringing people together through love. How do you connect to that, right? So this neutral card is the stance of your mind. Like, it feels like your mind is like, there's no like, ew, no, or, oh yeah, let's do this, and I want to be different, and I'm going to stand out. Like, there's no ego involved in this union. There's only love. That's the big message from this day, and it's a big one. And it's the kind, because your energy, remember we talked about your energy being very powerful here, your feminine energy, your maternal energy here is very powerful. Your energy about this love message ripples out. And I feel like that's still a part of you. And if you're not aware of that today, to try to feel that within you, the energy of love that you have within you, and how you are powerful, and how you do have the ability to create waves simply with your thoughts and those emotions. So just consider that and see how you connect with that. Let's see. Yeah. Just keep making connections where you can with this. Yeah. Okay. And the death card over here. So here we have the burn baby burn card. So we get this card like if you burn at the stake, or if you're like, if you pass away like in the summer, very hot day, you know, it's all kinds of things having to do with heat. Heat. Let's see what's going on with this. Burn baby burn. What's going on? What's going on? There's not really much coming through at all. Let me see. I don't know. There's two things coming through, and it's like they're showing me like a burn scab on an arm, but I'm trying to understand how that equals a death, because it does not feel... Ah, okay. All right. So I'd love for you to look this up to see if there's anything you can find on this. What they're showing me is a rip in the arm. When you're much older, there's a rip in the arm that occurs. It feels like almost like when you're going out to get water, or when you're going somewhere and you're older and it feels like you stumble and fall and you kind of rip your skin on your arm, like you rip it, and it's like a nice gash, we can say. So it feels like to mend it, there's something about sewing it together, and then also there's something about sealing it by searing it. So see if you can Google that and see if they used to sear like gashes or cuts in Africa, like literally see if they sear them to close them up, you know, like sear the skin. And but it feels like bacteria got trapped inside, and we're looking at an infection. So this feels like it's on the arm right here, on the right arm. So the only connection I could see to this is if you are scared of burns, if burns are like one of the things you're like, that's the worst pain that you can get is a burn. If you fear, if you don't like the idea of like tools that are heat oriented, and what comes to my mind is like glass blowing tools, or like soldering tools, or anyway, anything having to do with heat, as far as like mechanisms that produce heat or heating elements to things. You might want to say, you might be someone that's like, I'm good, I don't need to be near that. You might not like flames or fire. And then this can also speak to if you have an unreasonable fear of, or like paranoia of being klutzy and falling for no reason. Like if you're just always afraid you're gonna fall. You know what I mean? Like it could be the silliest thing, like, that's why I don't wear heels. I'll fall. Like that kind of thing. And if not, that's totally fine. But that's the only connection that's really coming through. And of course, if you've got anything going on your arm here, whether it's a birthmark of any kind, or if you have gotten injured again on your right arm, that would be a connection as well. But if not, no worries. And next, we are going to the lesson. So this is the boundaries card, and this just speaks directly to the idea that if the community had walls up, and I'm talking about like theoretical walls up when it comes to welcoming newcomers in, you would not have met your love. You would not have had a life with someone you loved and created a family with someone you loved. You would not have had this special day, and you would not have had the chance to let this love ripple out into the community to affect other people. That's what boundaries can do. That's what putting walls up can do. It can keep the love out. So this is just a message for you to make sure that you're not putting up unhealthy walls that would keep love out. Only healthy boundaries. And sometimes the walls we put up are healthy when we put them up, but once we're healed from it, sometimes it's best to take them down, because the boundaries will always be there, but you don't need the walls there, right? The emotional boundaries will be there, but the walls that keep things out don't need to be there, because the things that you built them up for to keep out are no longer there anymore. Now it would be you, and you would know how to feel it. Like, basically trust yourself that you know what love feels like, what authenticity feels like, what genuine compassion and care feels like in another human being, so to speak, so that you can trust that you can put your walls down and trust your, I want to say, your radar when it comes to that now. So it's just that kind of thing. Like, healthy boundaries are awesome, but walls sometimes turn in healthy boundaries can turn into unhealthy boundaries if they like become permanent walls and they keep love out. You want to make sure that you at least know how to take walls down when you feel like love is there to come in, if that makes sense. Trust yourself with that. Hopefully that makes sense. But keep connecting with the boundaries card, okay? So anyway, okay, the time thing. So the time thing is a little tricky because it feels like, again, like I said, they're not primitive. So this is not like ancient times, but this doesn't, here's the thing. It doesn't feel modern. However, it could be the kind of situation where they might be in a certain time and the rest of the world, like the Western world, will say, the rest of the world might be modernizing at a quicker rate. So they kind of stay stuck, maybe 3 decades behind the rest of the world, at least. So that's where it's a little tricky to figure this out. So I'm just feeling out. But that in itself is almost a message where it's like, you don't need to compare yourself to other people. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses. You just need to focus on what makes you feel loved and happy and just like content in the present moment. And it doesn't matter what makes other people happy. If it doesn't matter, because all that matters is you in the present moment, what works for you. Just like this community, it doesn't matter if the rest of the world is modernizing around them. They're quite content and happy. Even though eventually they do modernize eventually, but it's like they're on their own time. They're at their own pace. And I think that is actually a very important message in itself. But, yeah. This feels like it would not be beyond the 19th century at all. This is prior to the 19th century. So if you connect with that time in any way, prior to modernization, if you like history, prior to the modernization, prior to industrialization, or the industrial era or whatever. Yeah, this is more of an earth-based, nature-based existence, is what it feels like. It feels very organic. But anyway, so there you go. So there is your past life. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're able to make some connections, and thanks for letting me read you.